Welcome to the podcast When Travel Was Travel. This was a time before smartphones, when there was still adventure to be had, when you didn't know what may be around the corner, where you couldn't even imagine some of the surprises and things you might find or eat or see. We used to have to read books like Lonely Planet, and we'd go to the library or the bookstores and we'd find as much written material as we could on all these places. Now, unfortunately, everything is more homogenized. Everything looks the same. Skyscrapers, subways, Starbucks. These are the journals of Freddie Lieberman, along with his brother Freddie Lieberman, or to many of the places that he sent me to. So sit back, relax, and enjoy at a time when travel was travel. Sunday, December 23rd, 1990. At 12 noon, I begin the adventure, leaving Deborah, Maury, and Leslie at BWI. Maury and Leslie will take the later flight to Miami through Pittsburgh. I will arrive in Miami an hour earlier, connecting through Jacksonville. At 4:30, I walk through the balmy breezes of Miami. According to the screens, Maury and Leslie will arrive at 6 p.m. Since relaxation is a major goal of any vacation, I will kick back and begin now. At 7:45 p.m., we board our Air Paraguay's 707. At 10 p.m., I finish the large meal provided, and we have been airborne about an hour. We have about 7 hours to go. I think I'll put on a sleep mask and see if I can dream the hours away. Well, so much for dreaming. At about 1 a.m., we crossed over the Amazon, and due to the air currents, we hit some wild turbulence. I've learned to just enjoy the ride, knowing it will happen on the return also. And cabin lights click on at 3:30 a.m. I now move my watch to 5:30 a.m. to Paraguayan time. Breakfast is now served. I stagger off the plane into the modest and basic air terminal of Asunción, Paraguay. In 4 hours, we will leave for Buenos Aires. Monday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Paraguay's airport is a sleepy place. So quiet, people were sleeping on the floor, including me. Finally, at 10 a.m., we board, and I fall asleep after a brief snack. We move the watches ahead 2 hours, and in the same amount of time, we land in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Here there is action and electricity. We are awake and excited, especially when we see our luggage appear on the schedule. Air Paraguay. They moved us through customs and got us a car and driver for a mad dash across town to the domestic airport for our final leg. The air is cool and warm. At the same time, our car dodges buses along the narrow 2-lane highway. The place feels good, and the little barbecue stands along the road are portents of good things to come. Well, we miss our 2:30 flight and begin to wait for the 4 o'clock flight. Our driver, he takes us to lunch along the river. A cool breeze wraps us in goodwill as we sit under a mimosa tree along the river. I drink a Fanta, waiting for my chorizo. Maury gets a huge steak and Leslie gets 1/2 chicken. The money here is called Australes, formerly the peso. As of today, it takes 5,250 Australes to make $1. To break it down even more, 2,350 Australes equal 50 cents. 1,175 Australes, 25 cents. And 587 Australes, 12 cents US. After snoozing for an hour by the river, we catch the final plane of our journey to Uruguay, Montevideo. At 6:30 p.m. we land in Montevideo, Uruguay. Exchange 1,570 equals $1. And we took the drive to our hotel by the road that runs along the River Plate. It is one of the widest rivers in the world. Uruguay greets us with delightful weather, with a constant wind coming off the river. A city of over 1 million people, Montevideo shows us a slight age, and the air is sweet with no pollution. We check into the Victoria Plaza Hotel, and after the rejuvenating shower, we went looking for dinner. We shared a cab with a South African couple, and we ate at a place called La Brasas, one of the many meat palaces. I had a 2-pound filet. The total cost with tip was 52,200 pesos, or $31.50. For a little more than $10 apiece, we stuffed ourselves, ending the meal with fresh strawberries and flan. We walked back to the hotel, firecrackers echoing off the canyons of the buildings. We feel safe and peaceful in the evening breeze. And at midnight we turn in, after watching a trash film on the tube. Firecrackers echo on the streets below. Christmas has come in with a bang. Tuesday, December 25th, 9 a.m., 3 rocks gently waking. Sleep so solid, so heavy, nothing can disturb it. After breakfast, we walked the empty streets, called the 18th of July. It is the main boulevard, but on Christmas Day, very little is open. We take the first trolley, electric streetcar, bus that came by. The day was so beautiful, we decided to go wherever the end of the line was. The bus deposited us in an outer suburb along the river. Beaches stretched for miles, and families were scattered along the sand, watching the sun. The morning is fresh, and the wind never stops. The streets have little traffic, and between the Fiats and Mercedes going by, you see lots and lots of VW Beetles and strange relics of automobiles of the past. Back at the hotel, we immediately conk out for 1 hour. Then Maury and I take a bus way out to the end of the line. The poor suburbs here, we grab a snack at the Café Paris. A real neighborhood's meeting place. Flies are buzzing around. A bar with all types of scotch and whiskey. Well, we got back to the hotel at 8 p.m. We find most of the good restaurants are not open tonight, so we go to this Chinese place. Three Americans at another table tell us not to order at all. Their description of the dishes convinces us. To save face, we have egg rolls. 2 blocks down, we go to the place called Ruffino's, an Italian restaurant, and that is not only an improvement, but cheaper than the Chinese place. My Alfredo was massively buried in cheese and cream sauce, and we finished dinner at midnight. And we walked back to the hotel, enjoying the constant wind and window shopping along the avenue. Wednesday, December 26. The city has come alive on the first working day after Christmas. Lots of noise, traffic, and all the stores are open, and for miles, street vendors of all kinds of crafts. After breakfast in a European cafeteria, I go to one of the gem shops. The quality and cuts of amethyst are unbelievable. One chunk of amethyst stands waist high and can be had for a mere $3,000. It is a tough decision, but one cluster of crystals draw my attention. They are bigger than most and a deep, deep purple color. All the crystals were mined in Uruguay and are considered the finest specimens in the world. Lunch finds us at the marketplace near the docks. In an iron-covered warehouse, there are stalls of restaurants, each displaying huge grills with fires licking all sorts of meat. Maury gets this huge chunk of lamb, and I have pork wrapped around herbs. Leslie has a salad. What is really great is that in Uruguay, you can drink the water, eat the salads, or whatever, and not get sick. At our next destination of Paraguay, caution is our first concern. And for sure, we will only have bottled water. Restaurant, panoramic, 5 stars. The best Montevideo has to offer. We all put on our best. I wear the green paisley tie and a sport coat. The restaurant sits on the roof of City Hall, and each table has a view of the city. The table settings are dazzling to the eye, with a silver plate, 3 forks, 3 knives, and 2 dessert utensils, and 4 glasses for the proper beverage. The waiters are all in tuxes, handsome, soft-spoken, with a manner that makes you feel totally taken care of. The first course was the cold appetizer trolley. I chose tuna in oil, Roquefort mousse, and chicken rolled around ham and cheese, and beet Waldorf salad and melon. Some of the other choices were calamari in olive oil, 2 types of pâté, a turkey roll, a mint mousse, and roast beef. For the main dish, I had 2 medallions of beef wrapped in bacon in a wine and mushroom sauce, flamed in Jamaican rum. The medallions were the size of my fist. And for dessert, I had cream caramel, and Maury had an exquisite almond mousse. This Epicurean fantasy cost us $26 apiece. This included a dry sherry to start the meal, and a fine, dry Argentinian wine to complement it. Thursday, December 27th, 1990. A warm rain falls over Montevideo. We shop for sweaters, a very fine quality made only here in Uruguay. The cost would be prohibitive in the States, but here it's only $60. I return to the gem store and purchase a pendant for my loved one. a magical stone of amethyst and agate cut from a stalactite. I have never seen anything like it, and it kept drawing me back. So late afternoon, we have lunch in the airport. The skies are darker, and the rain continues. Soon we wing our way through the storm clouds and land in a sunny, bright, humid Ascension. As we deplane, the heat suffocates our senses. We are really in a banana republic. The country is a mix of very poor and very rich. Lots and lots of Germans have taken refuge here after the war. The opulence of the houses is awesome. And there is no end to the new Mercedes crowding the streets. We check into the premier hotel and shed our clothes. At poolside, I sip a Bavarian cerveza. The sun has slipped behind the clouds, and so the air is warm. The average high this time of year is in the 90s, and the average low is in the 70s. We walk a block to the Buon Appetito restaurant. It looks like a place you might find in Italy. A wall of wines, high ceilings, and it's a timeless place that always keeps an old, worn look. A fresh baked bread ring is brought out. Then I have a mini pizza, and it is delightful with a perfect thin crust. At the table next to us are the two single mothers from New York and New Jersey, here to adopt Paraguayan children. One has a little girl of 17 months, and the other has a 3-month-old baby. They are adorable, and the love for these children are clearly seen in the eyes of these women. Friday, December 28th, 1990. The overcast keeps the heat down and makes the morning somewhat comfortable. CNN is on the hotel restaurant TV, and we learn of the messy weather back in the States. 5 inches of snow at Dulles, with rain following. I hope it clears the snow instead of freezing on it. With Marion Barry having a week left in office, I'm sure snow removal is not on his agenda. The money here is called guarani. It takes 1,235 guarani to make $1 US. We walk towards town until we get to the train station, a grand structure lined with huge columns. Maury tries to buy tickets on the oldest train in South America. We learn that it is broken down, so we walk to the central city for lunch and also to confirm plane tickets. The city is a hodgepodge of street vendors and stores. The sidewalks are in a state of disrepair. Traffic and noise assails the senses. In the main square, the smell of urine and dust mix and force you to ration your breathing. Every 10 feet in the main square is a shoe shine stand. Lunch is taken in a beautiful place that offers everything one could think of on a menu. I order my meat fix. After lunch, we hop on a city bus to the bus station. The driver floored the gas pedal and twisted and turned through the narrow streets, slamming on the brakes when he had to pick up a fare. By the time we slid into the station, I was ready to be on solid ground. We hopped on another bus for the little town of Itegua. The ride was a little smoother, but I was ready to get out when we were deposited on a dirt road an hour and a half later. Itegua has one main street of cement. The rest are shady dirt side streets where the people live. The craft of Itegua is crocheting, lace making, and related arts. I purchased 3 shirts. The crafts here are so beautiful in their intricate designs, and even though you don't need something, you want to buy it anyway. The day gets cooler, and it feels like we are back in Montevideo. The air feels good and has blown away the pollution as we walk 10 or so blocks to a Chinese restaurant. The food has a slightly different slant in its taste, but it is the exact change we needed in our diets. The streets at night are quiet, dark, and we maneuver the cracked sidewalks with ease back to the Hotel Premier. Saturday, December 29th, 1990. Yerba mate. I know it's a drink, a tea-like drink. It seems mostly men drink it here in Paraguay. Men are constantly pouring hot water to their cups to sip the strange elixir. In Uruguay, they drink it from leather cups, and the liquid is sucked through straws that have a built-in strainer to keep the leaves from being ingested. Just think how this marvelous drink changes in taste as your leather cup ages and ferments. 6:30 came earlier than usual, or at least it felt like it. The day shows a great promise with cool breezes and clear blue sky. We wonder what happened to the oppressive heat. Today we take a 4-hour bus ride to Iguazu Falls. The bus has all the comforts: plush seats, air conditioning, and a bathroom. From poolside at the Casino Hotel, I look across the river and I see an hour into the future. The river separates Brazil from Paraguay. Earlier, we were met at the bus station by Florencia, who drove us across the bridge into Brazil for lunch. We ate at a chascaria called Buffalo Bronco. A chascaria is a place where meat eaters go if they have been good when they die. I begin with hearts of palm. Then the waiter brings picanha, a cut of steak. And when I finish that, the waiter brings maminha, a different cut of steak. When I finish that, the waiter brings alcantara, another kind of steak. As I finish that, the waiter brings filet mignon. Then he brings contra filet. I am beaten into submission. I turn down the final steak, fraldinha, but I do have dessert. Total cost of this excess was $13 per person. As we trundled out to our car, I was ready for a nap. However, when we got to Iguazu Falls, I was charged with new energy. The sight was electrifying. As a panoramic view of the falls could be seen, I immediately head for the helicopter pad, and in 10 minutes I am airborne. I feel like a condor as we swoop over the crashing falls. First at about 1,000 feet. And then 500 feet higher. A 10-minute ride that made one feel untethered to the earth. The air is clear, and the day is bright and blue back on the ground. I followed the path along the cliffs until I reached the main falls. Tons and tons of white water crashing in a deafening roar. Along the path, I spotted lizards the size of my arm, butterflies of all kinds of exotic varieties, and the singing of the cicadas let me know that I was in the jungle. Sunday, December 30th, 1990. After a light breakfast, we were taken to Itaipu Dam. This massive colossus supplies power to 70% of the population of Brazil. An amazing achievement in cement. We then had lunch where I had my customary steak. We boarded the bus back to Ascension when not too far out, a child of a Costa Rican diplomat urinated on Leslie's foot. I was dumbfounded. And the woman said, "So what?" But I didn't know. To appease Leslie's honor, Maury said in Spanish, "You stupid Costa Rican woman." Little did I know that for the next 4 hours, Leslie was stewing and the woman was stewing. When we got to Ascension, we saw they were with the same tour as us, which meant sharing the same car. Leslie said she was not sharing the car with that diplomat woman, and Maury told our guide we will take a cab. At this, the woman, being of high, aristocratic station, exploded. "You have insulted my country," she yelled, waving her Costa Rican passport wildly as Leslie started walking away. The woman made a feeble attempt to hit her.
Ay, pero ya, olvídate de tantas tonterías que tú me estás diciendo, que yo no quiero saber nada, ya, olvídate.
This is when I stepped in, calling her stupid, laughing, telling her to shut up, and spitting on the sidewalk. It was quite a scene, as Maury was doing about the same. He was one step away from telling her that she had an ugly child. I must brush up on my Spanish invectives. Now, let's talk about gluttony. Eating is a big part of traveling. And when you are paying small amounts for great portions, it is easy to consume the experiences. Tonight, we tried to go to some good German restaurants in the city. They were closed, so the cab driver took us to a place in the suburbs called Westphalia. We sat out in the garden, colored lights in the trees. In the center was the chef cooking steaks and chicken and sausage. Maury and I first sampled the chorizo. Leslie had tomato soup. And it looked so good that we ordered it. Also, it was extremely good, and the meal would have been quite satisfying if it had ended there. Leslie ordered sarubi, the local freshwater fish. Maury had goulash, and I had sarubi buried in garlic and sauce. These dishes were so fragrant, you could smell them across the garden. The portions, as usual, were ample, and it broke my heart to leave some of my sarubi on the plate. We were all exhausted and were nodding out at the table. I couldn't resist. I ordered helado. So did Maury. We could barely function as we got a cab back to the Premier Hotel. Total cost for our overindulgence, $8 per person with tip. Monday, December 31st, 1990. Very, very hot day. We walked to the Centro area to find Leslie new shoes. We were accompanied by Daria, one of the women who has come down to adopt a baby. She is a single mother who has adopted Maya, a 17-month-old cutie. The town was crowded with shops, being New Year's Eve. Explosions are constantly going off, and we know they'll increase as the year ends. One of the sad things is the Indians relegated to the square, selling handicrafts. Just like our Indians, they were conquered, and they were relegated to reservations. By mid-afternoon, we were passed out in our room, reading and sleeping, sleeping and reading. We spent the evening driving the streets looking for a place to eat. We finally ended at the Tomate, a steak and salad restaurant next to the place we were last night. Another lovely garden, lamps on each table, German music, and lambada plays from a radio. At midnight, we watched the new year from our window. Every neighborhood can be seen and heard exploding firecrackers and launching bottle rockets. It is a quilt work of explosions and sounds. It is a quilt work of explosions and sounds, as if everyone is talking at once and then answering the same way. January 1st, 1991. It's a Tuesday. Happy New Year. The streets are very quiet as we taxi our way to the airport. Michael Franks is playing on the taxi's radio. Hardly anyone at the airport, and we board a very empty plane. 10 minutes out of Buenos Aires, we fly into a thunderstorm. The plane does the dance of turbulence, and I am quite happy when we descend into the rain below the clouds. As our taxi takes us into the main city, we are struck by the similarities to New York and Europe. We check into the Recoleta Hotel, and it is more than adequate. Located in the ritzy part of town, the small hotel shows style and class. We take a walk along a street that reminds Leslie of Paris. We have hamburgers, and when the bill comes, Leslie questions it. And indeed, we have been overcharged. It's very easy to get confused when you are dealing with thousands. For every $1 you are adding 5,700 astrales. From the cafe-lined streets, we go to the Recoleta Cemetery. This is where the rich and famous rest. An incredible city of the dead with streets and marble houses that are shrined with busts, angels, and glass. Looking into these monuments, you see the old coffins and stairs that lead underground, where you glimpse more coffins of the families. Eva Peron is resting here. This place overwhelms you with too much opulent funerary architecture. The bell begins ringing. The cemetery is closing. We leave. We walk to the 9th of July Avenue, the largest street in the world. Along the way, we pass antique shops that house wonderful treasures of the past. Evening finds us in a taxi watching the digital Nervex add up the astrales. The cab driver is singing, and we finally get to our destination for 46,000 astrales. We were upset and feeling ripped off until we looked at my conversion chart and saw we only spent $8.50. The moon along the river is full with strands of dark clouds, cutting it into fourths. And the water is lighted by the moon. And all along the river, people are fishing. We eat dinner at the fashionably late hour of 10 p.m. I finish the meal with a bonbon, caramel center, surrounded by vanilla, surrounded by chocolate, covered by a chocolate skin with crushed nuts on top. It was worth the $5 price tag. January 2nd, 1991. It's a Wednesday. We took a city bus to Florida Street, a shopper's paradise, especially if you've got money. However, if you are into leather goods, buys abound. We stopped by a McDonald's and saw Big Macs cost $3.50. We found a cute cafe called Perestroika. Here you can get a great hamburger for $2.50. We tried to buy a train ticket after lunch, but there were 50 people ahead of us, just waiting to get to the front door of the booking office. To avoid frustration, we decided to hop the subway. An ancient construction with decaying ornamental tiles, noisy and loud. I loved old character of the system. It is very much like the New York subway. And when we emerge from the underground, we are at the train station. A huge shed of iron skeletal structures built by the English. Within 10 minutes of buying our ticket, we are on the train to Tigray. The clickety-clack of the train gets me pumped up and always brings back good memories of train rides past. The hot day immediately cools down as I stick my head out of the window and watch the suburbs and little towns fly by. I am lulled by the rocking motion and go in and out of catnaps until we reach the end of the line, Tigray. The town full of canals, yacht clubs, rowing clubs, and islands that people live on. From the train, we buy a boat ticket, and soon we are motoring down the river. Again, the hot day cools instantly, and we take in the sights and smells of the river. People fishing, children swimming, boats being repaired, strange marine shells, and hulks of boats half submerged and rusting in the water. The boat is a taxi, so periodically it stops to let people on or off. Back in Tigray, we hop the train and we seem to get back to Buenos Aires even faster. Earlier, walking the streets, I stopped at a magazine stand and recognized the only person I knew in Buenos Aires, Herrero, our driver a week ago when we landed in Buenos Aires to make our connection. He was also surprised, and it is always a comfort to see a familiar face in a strange city. This morning it took 5,700 Australians to make $1 US. Tonight, with this runaway inflation, it now takes 5,900 Australians to make $1 US. Gluttony struck once again. We went to a real Argentinian restaurant, the kind of place where animals are being cooked in the window, and udders and testicles are the main staples on the menu. As we sat down, the tuxedo-clad waiter put a warm empanada on each of our plates. After an appetizer of grilled red pepper and grilled eggplant, I had the 1/2-inch thick massive steak, finishing off the meal with chocolate mousse and ice cream. We are finally eating at fashionably late hours, and tonight's meal was completed at 11:30 p.m. January 3rd, 1991, Thursday. There is a breeze in Mendoza, a dry heat that keeps you hot without sweating. We flew to Mendoza this morning. When I went to buy the ticket, I got stuck in the 4-person elevator. It was only for 5 minutes, but a wall of claustrophobia hit me hard, and the sweating palms. I nearly fainted. After paying 7 million Australies, I had the tickets for Mendoza. Mendoza is the wine capital of Argentina and the beginning of the foothills of the Andes Mountains. These foothills are as high as the Rockies. We got to Mendoza during siesta time. Little activity, and all the stores closed. Then at 4 o'clock, like an old man waking up, the city begins to come alive. Lots of sidewalk cafes, the streets are clean and people are not rushing, as in Buenos Aires. We checked into the Nevada Hotel, 3 stars. We do the usual scouting, and after dinner we promptly go to sleep. No air conditioner. The windows are wide open and no breeze. 30 minutes of trying to convince myself that this is not hot, I conclude that I am in hell. Leslie says putting a wet towel on top of you will help. Oh my God, she's right. I douse my body with a damp towel and sleep most of the night. January 4th, 1991, Friday. At 7 a.m., we hopped out of bed. The tour bus will pick us up at 7:30. Once in the lobby, we find out we did not set our watches back an hour on Mendoza time. So we really had gotten up at 6 a.m. At the real 7:30 a.m., the bus picked us up and we were on our way to the mountains. Soon we were dwarfed by the so-called foothills, and miles away a snow-covered peak could be seen. I had brought a sweater to Mendoza, but after baking last night, I did not take it with me on this outing. Already I can feel a 10-degree drop in the climate, and now I believe it will be quite chilly at our destination. The mountains get higher, and soon we are like an ant making our way through endless hills of rock. The bus starts its ascent up one mountain, endless snaking back and forth, and each time the driver succeeded making the narrow turn, the passengers applauded, as if he had made a touchdown. Finally, at the summit, there was a sign, "Welcome to Chile." The wind was blowing very hard, and I was glad Maury brought a windbreaker. There was old snow, and my fingers were getting numb. I ran around taking pictures of the highest Christ statue, and because of the thin air, I was winded. I felt as if I had run a race, and I'm sure I was breathing heavy because I wanted more of the thin air. Going back down, the driver was applauded for more scores, and we did not go sliding down the mountain, as some might have imagined. Our next stop was an Incan ruin and a natural bridge. A more civilized temperature, but the wind was endless and continuous, at times lifting you off the ground, and with a pair of wings, flight would have been possible. The bridge was formed by underground hot springs, and watching one bubble out of a solid rock was magical. Further down the road, we stopped at a mountain river and drank. We drank the water, and I never thought I would see pure natural water that was so drinkable. I held some up to the light, and it sparkled with no impurities and clarity. The taste was clean and good. The outing to the mountains was about 12 hours, and we were well spent by the experience. The way back seemed even longer. Thunderclouds on the horizon teased us with the prospect of cooling rains, but it was not to be. We ate dinner at an Italian restaurant at 10 p.m. This is early here. I was able to stay awake for my bonbon, pronounced bone bone, one of the great ice cream desserts in South America. Back in our room, I light a mosquito coil, wet a cooling towel, and proceed to call it an evening. January 5th, 1991, Saturday. I wake up with 5 new mosquito bites. At least I'm getting acclimated to the heat. Saturday in Mendoza is very festive. People shopping, lovers eating ice cream. We sit along the mall underneath the shade of umbrellas and trees, eating pasta. Maury reads his travel Bible. Leslie, the Buenos Aires Journal, and me with a novel. We later walk to the train station, and after making a wrong turn, we think we might have missed the train. They tell us the train will leave in an hour. Later, relieved, we join the throngs of people on the platform in the sweltering heat. Maury makes friends with 2 ladies, and they chatter with him incessantly while he nods and smiles. Eventually, a train is assembled, but it is the Libertad headed for Buenos Aires. We want the train for San Juan. Finally, 2 hours after we arrive, our train pulls into the station, and at 4:30 are on our way to San Juan. For miles we pass desert. Then we pass miles of vineyards, alternating with more desert. At the end of the line, we get off at San Juan, a town in one of the outer provinces. We sit at a cafe around the main square. Cars are circling to be seen. Teenagers in their scooters. Our cars are cruising. The people here are darker, more Indian mix, unlike Buenos Aires, where you could mistake a lot of people for Italian. After getting a taste of San Juan, Maury and I buy a foot-long hot dog off the street. Then we go to the bus station to get the night bus to Mendoza. Waiting for our bus, we see a violent thunderstorm in the distance, a constant show of explosive light and streak lightning. Once on the bus, I sit back and for an hour watch the explosions of light on the horizon. A constant light show that keeps me mesmerized. I nod off to sleep and am awakened by the sizzle of rain and the clap of thunder. We have entered the storm. The lightning is closer, and the show continues. The rain finally stops on the outskirts of Mendoza. The streets are flooded in many places, and little rivers run along the curbs. Even at midnight, people are eating their steaks. And as we see, local restaurants are packed. We have a midnight snack of ice cream and soda. And just before the skies open up again, we are back in our room, enjoying a cool breeze and falling promptly to sleep. January 6, 1991. Sunday morning in Mendoza. The elusive Mendozan breeze blows through the open window. As I clip the stray hairs of my Castro-like beard, I bask in the best weather we've had yet here. We stroll the streets until 1, where we take a taxi to the airport. We wait for 2 hours. The plane is an hour late. By 6:30, we are landing in Buenos Aires, and we feel good. The streets now look familiar, and the weather, it is delightful. Our taxi pulls into a 15-lane, one-way street. The race has begun, and cars are changing lanes, dodging each other. Our cab plays his own version of chicken, and we miss getting tagged by inches. Maury keeps his arms out of the window as other cars threaten. After getting settled, we meet Leslie's parents at the Sheraton. They've flown in after taking a cruise down to Antarctica and the Falkland Islands. The Sheraton Hotel is massive, and it looks like a city unto itself, unlike the quiet intimacy of our hotel, Recoleta. We have our steak fix at La Rural, and we hear about their adventures at sea. By midnight, I feel we've done another very full day. January 7th, 1991, Monday. We sit at an outdoor cafe under a gomero tree. These trees have spidery limbs and trunks that extend in a radius of over 30 feet. This tree must be several hundred years old. And the day? It is even more beautiful than the day before. Children are playing in the park. Dogs of all breeds being walked. After our hamburguesas, we walk to Recoleta Cemetery to show Leslie's parents. I'm glad to go again because unlike last time, the sun is out and I'll get even better photographs with a blue sky. I also get a chance to locate the tomb of Eva Perón. Later, we purchase tickets to take the hydrofoil to Uruguay tomorrow. Then we go to the leather factory, and I purchase 2 leather jackets for a total of $480. If I had cash, I could have saved 20% more. Amazing buys when you think that I'll be wearing these jackets for the next 5 or 6 years. Took dinner at the Cantina China. After days of meat, you need to take a sabbatical of a light meal. Good night. January 8th, 1991, Tuesday. The jets of the hydrofoil hummed me to sleep. Before crossing the Platte River into Uruguay, we boarded in the main dock area of Buenos Aires. Just north of us was the grand tall ship, the Libertad. I once saw her under full sail in New York. It takes only an hour to skid across the river to Colonia, Uruguay. Then a bus takes us to Montevideo. Mr. Scalet wanted to see another country, so we decided to take a day trip back to the Uruguayan capital. Las Brasas restaurant was as great as we remembered it. The waiter remembered us from Christmas. Maury bought leather, The Scallots bought a mono sweater, and the weather was a delight until we went home. Storm clouds appeared on the horizon. Soon the bus was taking us through the rain. When we reached Colonia, I could see the water was quite choppy. Inside the hydrofoil, the air was stale and hot. As we lifted out of the water, we bounced like a roller coaster. The wonderful first ride experience of the hydrofoil, skating on water like ice, was quickly forgotten. Leslie had to lie on the floor. The stewardesses started passing out plastic bags. For the first 5 minutes, I thought the ride was neat as we left the surface of the water. 6 minutes later, my skin was turning to a green pallor. At the close of this 1-hour ride, I was renewed when the fresh, rainy air hit me. A light rain was falling over the city, and we got back to the Hotel Recoleta, close to 10 p.m. For dinner, we have empanadas delivered, and at $1 a piece, these are the best buys when it comes to a tasty snack. I went out later and bought some cookies and some yerba, or yerba mate. It smells like tea, and I am ready to try it since I bought a traditional cup and straw in Uruguay. The cup is made out of a gourd or some fruit, and I have a leather stand to set it in. The gourd must be cured for 2 days before actual use. When in Rome. January 9th, 1991. Wednesday. The taxis of Buenos Aires are like ants, crisscrossing the streets, 4 abreast, and even 6 deep. Even an inadvertent sneeze or a nod can bring 1 or 2 to a screeching halt. Now we taxi everywhere, and at the most pay $2.50 a ride. We started the day taking the subway near the Boca area, the mouth of the river. This place was where the Italian immigrants settled. On one street, there are artist studios and galleries. Another street is painted with bold, bright colors, various murals and sculptures. In the center, artists sell and display their work. Leslie buys an original piece of art. Next, we tango our way to San Telmo. I had heard about this section of town, but it was even more overwhelming than I could ever imagined. Hours and hours, even days of antiques, centuries of people's lives and possessions are on display in shops, block after block. One store specialized in music boxes and Victrolas, original Edison cylinder players, the old Horn 78 windups, and the 20-inch metal discs for the music boxes. The owner turns one on and a symphony of little bells plays the tango. The cost was only 10,000 American dollars. Shops were packed with ceramic vases 5 to 6 feet high, and other stores were filled with cut glass chandeliers from every period. I like the collectible stores filling every one of their nooks with medals and sabers, oil lamps, telescopes, bolos, mate cups, jewels, tea sets, and guns. Finally, you could see the marble sculptures and busts of every size and description. This is the place where you come to buy when you want to decorate the rooms of your chalet or palace. Sitting under the gomero tree at twilight at 8 p.m., twilight is just starting to turn golden. Lovers are entwined in the grass. Dogs are getting their evening walk. Seniors crowd the park benches, getting caressed by the breezes. We sit at the cafe and people watch. An accordion player's music finishes the European touches. We have a light dinner and are smacked with the Recoleta prices. My beer was $5. In the future, we only drink here. Later, we see Leslie's parents depart for America, and then I go to sleep early. January 10th, Thursday. A travel day. Always a day you are neither here nor there. We do manage to go to a section of the city that is similar to New York's Lower East Side. We buy some inexpensive luggage because our personal belongings have expanded beyond our original luggage. We then go have pizza at Plaza Italiana, a wonderful section of the city that is near the zoo and botanical gardens. On Sunday, the street is filled with bookstalls and merchants of all kinds of wares. I hope to come back and see it. From the pizzeria, we walk a block to the subway and I spend my last 3 tokens. The tiled walls have scenes of Argentine life painted in greens and browns. The train is loud and rocks side to side with South American passion. I recommend the subway as an alternative or in conjunction with the taxis. Horatio is waiting at our hotel to take us to the airport. He drives the scenic route out of town along the avenue called the 9th of July. We pass the great obelisk, looking very much like a copy of the Washington Monument. The day stays cool, and the air continues to feel like spring. At the airport, LAP has overbooked their flight, so they have dusted off an Electra, a 4-prop jet airplane. The last time Maury flew in one of these was about 15 years ago. Even though the trip will be slower, the seats are made more roomy and comfortable. One of the most enjoyable parts of Buenos Aires was the staff of Recoleta Plaza Hotel. Claudio, Carlos, Sebastian, and Senor Orlando and Elizabeth all treated us like royalty, being more than helpful and made us feel like friends. After landing in a rainy Ascension, we checked back into the Hotel Premier. For being loyal customers, they gave us a first-floor suite. This means I'm in another room, and for the first time, Maury and Leslie can snuggle and talk baby talk to each other in privacy. Sitting in the courtyard of La Rosendale restaurant, music from the 3-piece band fills the air. The main melodies are played by a heavy-handed organ, backed up by amplified bass and drummer. This is a real neighborhood spot. It would be unusual for a tourist to choose this place. No one speaks English, so we are shown the cuts of meat listed on the menu. Tomorrow we will find out if we made a good decision. January 11th, 1991, Friday. Hot Ascension, sweltering heat, and the smell of dust. All you can do is adapt and be thankful you have ale in your hotel room. Luque, a little backwash of a town, a couple of miles from the airport. We took the colorful city bus out and it deposited us in the center of town. Almost no activity. And what there was looked about as stressful as a siesta. We woke up a cab driver and had him take us to a family that makes harps and guitars. For $200, I could have had a handmade guitar, but the thought of carrying it for another week dispels thoughts of a purchase. A full-size harp with ornamentation costs about $350. We asked for a demonstration. After about 10 minutes of tuning up, the man began to play. A glorious resonance bass line began with the left hand. Then the right began playing lead and rhythm. This is not the angelic classical music I expected, but the rhythms and counter-rhythms of a Latin orchestra. Beautiful folk melodies that transported you to another time. Knowing only years of practice could coax these sounds out of an instrument, and if we bought it, the harp would become only a decorative furniture. We passed on the purchase. A dark cloud was appearing on the horizon, cooling Essentia down to a pleasant temperature. We waved down a bus back to Ascension. 1 block from our hotel, the tropical rains hit. We could see the sheets of rain coming a block away, so we ducked for cover. Within minutes, the streets were flooded. When the deluge lightened, we walked back to the hotel, turning into damp rags with soaked feet. So now it is night, and we are sitting in the Au Jardin de la Corvesa restaurant. A mammoth room, ceiling fans, all you can eat for $14, with a stage show. The 4-piece band is playing Tea for Two, and we are wondering if there will be the traditional harp music. At 10 p.m., one lone harpist comes out, and like the afternoon, he transports us with such sound and style, we gain new respect for the magic of the harp. The show continues with dancers, then a vocalist, then 2 guitars, and a harp who does an amazing rendition of Zorba the Greek. Now the dancers come back doing turns and stagger steps, while one of the women dances with a bottle on her head, and as the dance progresses, she balances 2 bottles, then 3 bottles, 4 bottles, 5 bottles, mind you, on the top of the other 6 bottles, and finally 7 bottles, which makes the stack on her head taller than she is. We are exhausted, and while the show continues, we give the waiter a $50, and he refuses it because someone drew a beard on President Grant. We then paid with a $100 bill and then got change in American. To end the evening, our cab driver couldn't find our street. He got stuck on back roads, went the wrong way on the one-way streets, continually stopped to ask directions along the way, and when he finally drops us off, he wants 3 times the normal fare. Well, we compromised and held our ground because we knew how to get back to the hotel. So now we say goodbye to Ascension with the harp music playing in our dreams. January 12th, 1991, Saturday. The Indians were at the airport selling headdresses with parrot feathers, gaudy colored bags, and seed necklaces. Leslie and I purchased some strands, feeling better about helping the tribes economically. Even though our contribution would buy about 3 Coca-Colas, we try to avert our eyes because the briefest glance sends 2 more Indians over showing his wares. We end up waiting 4 hours at the airport. LAP held the flight until the plane from Madrid, very late, came in, so people could make all their connecting flights. We are booked to Sao Paulo, where we hope to catch an early flight to Brasilia. Early in the flight, the plane starts rocking, almost turning sideways. I have never experienced that maneuver in all my flying experience, and I was slightly disconcerted. 10 minutes before landing, the crew announces we will be landing in Rio. What? To make up time, they decided to fly to Rio first, then Sao Paulo second. Had we known, we would have booked our flight to Brasilia from Rio and saved time. Unfortunately, our luggage is booked to Sao Paulo, and so we must follow that path. A travel day, the day where you are neither here nor there. A lost day. As we took off from Rio, the dark storm clouds shrouded the city. Even the gloom could not hide the sparkle of Copacabana, Ipanema, and Sugarloaf, seen from the air before being lost in the clouds. At 10:30 p.m., we step into the clean air of Brasilia, almost 12 hours late since we started in Paraguay, and I feel every one of those hours. Jose meets us at the airport. After jump-starting his car, he takes us to his home that he designed. After meeting with his wife, Julieta, and given the tour, the rooms flow with high ceilings and mix with the landscape to give you a feeling of being in an open garden. Jose is a friend of Maury's. They met at college many years ago, and there is great pleasure to catch up with the past. Jose is a soft-spoken man with a constant smile. When he talks, he mixes his accent and hand gestures with humor. That it is a great joy to listen to him. Julieta has the same good-natured qualities, and together make a perfect match. January 13th, 1991. Brasilia is a city built like a cross. It is raining as we drive down the monumental axis. Jose gives us a tour of the futuristic buildings. The city is laid out in sectors and superblocks. Only streets, no sidewalks. Jose has designed many buildings, and we are shown them all. Lunch is taken at a classic Brazilian churrascaria. A red disc is given to you, and then when you turn it over, green is on the other side. As long as you leave the green side up, meat will constantly be brought out and sliced on your plate. Red means stop. I've had enough. It is the rainy season in Brazil. Rain this morning, and then a break in the weather late afternoon. In the evening, a constant rain begins and continues throughout the night. January 14th, 1991, Monday. Rain, rain, rain. We do much relaxing at the Galbinskis, and I find my English is turning into a patois. Julieta took us to her friend's restaurant for lunch. What makes this interesting is that whatever her friend cooks for the day, that is what you eat. Afterwards, Jose drives us to the satellite cities. They are grim, and the concept of separating cities into sectors is seen very clearly to be a stupid idea. Sectoring may work on paper, but in practice causes a sense of isolation and mutes creativity in designing one's living area. Back at Casa Balginski, we drive ourselves crazy watching TV. We hope that by osmosis we can understand the Portuguese. Eventually we give up after hours staring dumbly at the set. Jose prepares the barbecue and he cooks a feast of chorizo, sheep, and beef. This is a lovely way to end our stay in Brasilia. Good company, wine, food, and a scenic tropical paradise. January 15th, 1991, Tuesday. I assume the war in Israel will start soon. It will be interesting to see whether it begins before or after I return. As we land in Rio, we finally see a break in the weather. Sugarloaf Mountain and the Christ are seen in the distance. The city is teeming with life and yet much looks in decay. After checking into the Hotel Lancaster on the Avenida Atlantica, I check out the area, wary after all the stories on crime. My camera stays in the bag, close to my body, and I wear no jewelry and my wallet is in my buttoned-up pocket. The beaches are crowded, and the bathing suits are small. Vendors line the streets for a mile selling t-shirts, obscure art creations, crystals, towels, and bathing suits. We catch a cab and meet Jose's daughter, Anna Marie, and her companion, Eduardo Zero. They take us to lunch, and they are a sweet couple. Edward is the sound man for the Labao, Brazil's bad boy. One of the few Brazilian rockers writing intelligent lyrics. Their record collection is extensive, and right now Eduardo is discovering American country music. Anna Marie had to leave to interview with a job in Rock in Rio 2, a huge concert of rock groups from all over the world. The rain begins, and after buying Brazilian music, we sit under an umbrella, watching street life. Vendors come to our table selling everything from peanuts to small guitars. Prostitutes approach men at tables, and the sailors sitting nearby. A four-piece street band consisting of cabasa, 2 drums, and a ukulele begin to play. Off-key vocals and pulsating rhythms join in. I have bought enough samba music to keep me busy for the next year. I read the lyrics and music and wished I had a guitar nearby. Later in the evening, we walk Atlantic Avenue. The beach is lit with intensity, light giving it a green, eerie look. A light rain begins to fall. We prepared for this outing by wearing money pouches, money belts, and I buttoned all my pockets. We have a slight paranoia because of all the stories we heard. Yet the city feels like New York, in that if you take a modicum of caution, you will be fine. Police are stationed about every 2 blocks. I woke up in the middle of the night. The room felt like a sauna with no air. I just walked to the bathroom, wet a towel, threw it over me, and went back to bed. Weird, but it works at cooling the body down. Good night. January 16th, 1991, Wednesday. A light rain falls. Our tour guide picks us up at 9, and we are off to see the sights of Rio. We wend our way through the old city, seeing remnants of colonial days. We go to the street where the best samba schools march during Carnival. The street is enclosed and goes on for blocks. On each side, huge cement bleachers. 24 of the best get to do 90 minutes each. The lesser samba schools go down the city streets. The rain continues as we take the cable car up to the top of Sugarloaf. On a clear day, the views would vibrate your senses until you feel weak in the knees. Even in the rain and gray overcast, the views are awesome. We lunch at a chasqueria. Even Maury is beaten into submission by the endless parade of waiters bringing every kind of meat to the table. As much as you want and as long as you want. After eating at a chasqueria, you find yourself longing for the simplicity of a tomato. The rain falls harder as we board the inclined train up to the mountain to Corcovado. At the end of the 17-minute ride, I climbed the 200-plus steps up to one of the highest and largest crests, or sometimes they call Christos, in the world. The view is unbelievable. Much higher than Sugarloaf, and I wish the sun was throwing golden beams on Rio. But the rain and the wind are whipping around, and I quickly take shots using a sunset filter to give some color and a dramatic feeling to a gray panoramic. Our tour ends with a ride along the coast, and we see all the beaches: Ipanema, Copacabana, Leblon, and San Coronado in Tijuca. 9 hours of touring, and we are wiped out. We sit along the Copacabana having drinks, and last night's scenes happen again. The same prostitutes, prowl, people trying to sell us things, a constant assault on your senses. There is no peaceful drink on this strip. After days of meat, we change our diet, and we eat Chinese. January 17th, 1991, Thursday. Time to close the vacation. I am anxious to get back to see my honey. Maury hopes we are hijacked by the Iraqis to some exotic locale. The taxi driver tells us the war has begun and that the airports and communications of Iraq were bombed. I can't wait to get back to English news. Our plane, as usual, is hours late. On the first leg of the journey back, we wait in Rio Airport watching the low rain clouds approach until the mountains almost disappear. There is a haze of white gauze, and LAP buys us a fantastic lunch in the airport restaurant. Had we been on the plane, we would have had cheese and ham. Instead, we get steak and melon and cake. When we reach Ascension, our wait is only 2 hours instead of 4 or 5. Correction. Something has happened to our plane. And now departure, so they say, will be 10 p.m. We arrived at Ascension at 6:30, so the wait continues. We all stand around a TV set at 10 p.m., listening to news about the war. Someone translate. It all seems so unreal. Tel Aviv is attacked by missiles. Israel is in the air bombing Iraq now. Hussein's last straw was to change the focus of his atrocities to an Arab-Israeli war. I doubt if that will work, and I'm sure he knew that this was the way to turn his country to ashes. Air Paraguay just announced a 1 a.m. departure. Maybe, as we continue listening to the news, we find out things are happening fast and furious. I couldn't believe they sent a missile to Jerusalem. January 18th, 1991. Well, I guess we made it home safely. I guess we were quite exhausted. I guess on a trip like that, it takes a lot out of you, because when I look in my journal, all I have is the date, January 18th, 1991, Friday. So, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next trip.